Prior to March 19, 2020, socializing was a big part of post-secondary education. Student interaction brought joy to everyday life. In-class workshops from instructors removed the doubt from the learning. In March 2020, orders from the provincial government brought many public institutions to a close. Learning with classmates had come to an end. Susan Healy from Saskatchewan Polytechnic Learning Services was directed to work from home when the government declared the beginning of a pandemic.
Hi, I'm Sue Healy. I'm an instructor in learning services on Saskatoon campus. In regards to my journey here, I started off as a high school teacher. I spent most of my career in Prince Albert at Carleton High School. After that, I had the opportunity to go to Saskatchewan Polytechnic, and so I went and taught in the Adult 12 program for about 3.5 years. At which time a position came open in Saskatoon in learning services. So I came here in 2014. Well, I'll never forget the day that we had to start working at home. It was interesting because the director had contacted me to say that the staff would be going home that day, which was March 18th, but that he wanted me to go in for half a day the next day because I was program head at that time. So I came in and there were very, very few people in the building. And I remember feeling almost like COVID was chasing me down.
I was very nervous for a couple of reasons. Only one would be my living situation and what it would be considering I lived outside of Saskatoon.
I didn't like it. I actually deferred a year because I didn't want to be online.
Being able to stay home and take classes was kind of exciting. After a little while though, it got pretty boring and felt like I wasn't pushing myself as hard because I was just at home and getting distracted all the time.
Just everything is hands-on. You really have to be in the kitchen. So when they told us we had to do theories at home, it was a kind of a step back.
So when we first got home, we had to quickly get set up. And I didn't really have a desk or anything initially. I had my laptop mostly on my lap to begin with. And then when I realized that it was going to be a little bit longer, then I went into a room that kind of is a toy room / junk room / spare room and organized that. It was interesting being at home because the days became very long days when we were first home because it was not, shutting down at 5 o'clock. There was, evening meetings and trying to get going as quickly as we could. Working from home was different in that you had to be very intentional with making contacts. There was not the walking down the hall and meeting someone and chatting with someone. You had to see if their Zoom light was on and maybe Zoom them. There were not the incidental social times that you might have. To begin with, work-life balance was more difficult. It was like putting us into the deep water to learn how to swim very quickly.
It wasn't too bad. I did find it was like hard to stay focused. You're at home, so you have so many distractions.
For me, it was very hard staying motivated because I was at home.
A lot more stressful than I think being in person is. You know when you're supposed to stop with assignments and when you're supposed to worry about assignments.
It was difficult to stay motivated.
Pretty tough initially, and I wasn't staying motivated. I would get distracted all the time in my house.
It was kind of a little difficult because you didn't really have that enforcement that you do with standing in the kitchen and working away.
Working at home had its advantages and its disadvantages. Some of the things were that as long as you looked business appropriate with your tops for any kind of Zoom connections, you could stay in sweatpants and that type of thing. Working at home meant you could have your lunch right there. You didn't have to think about making lunches. There was no drive to work, so that takes for me like probably 20 minutes each way. When I was working at the office, I tended to dress up and you do your hair and you put makeup on and that type of thing. Unless I was having like an official Zoom meeting or something, you didn't have to, be quite the same as you would going to work. COVID has transformed the world in the way we do things. It's changed us in that we've had to adapt very quickly to doing things differently. Moving to Zoom was interesting because we had always had students, or primarily had students, sitting face to face with us. So it meant that we had to learn how to screen share, how to adapt the ways that we had been used to doing things. COVID has had some negative effects on mental health. And I think for students at Sask Polytech, there was a lot of uncertainty, and so that did create some anxiety. I saw students that were struggling to stay in classes because they didn't have the resources that they needed to be a good student. In order to articulate to students, we tried to make it as close to what it had been before. So we simply took all the things that we had already been doing and did that in a virtual world, and it turned out really well. Coming back here, I think what's been really good is that we're set up now to do remote learning very effectively, as well as in person. People that I would have known and seen at a meeting once or twice a year, these were people that I began to see daily. No longer were we just like Saskatoon campus or Regina campus, Moose Jaw or Prince Albert. We were all now one team. So that was a major benefit. I think that learners are very diverse, and some students really liked that opportunity to meet virtually. Moving forward, it's a real advantage to be able to do both.
I would absolutely not recommend online learning for anyone.
I don't personally like online schooling. I think we get a better experience with our program when we can interact with other people.
I personally prefer in-school learning just because that's how I like to learn, but some people it doesn't matter, so.
Keep reminders around, even around your home, just to give you that extra little boost into doing your assignments and keep on keeping on.
Whatever our circumstances are, and certainly COVID has not been an ideal situation. It's not been something that any of us would have ever wanted or dreamed of happening. We can always choose our attitude in our circumstances. And so I think choosing to see the opportunity in working from home and choosing to see some of the good in that really helped to get through what was a very unique experience for all of us, the students and the staff.
The pandemic has hit us hard with the reality that working from home comes with many pros and cons. Every day, humans crave social interaction, and with the virus spreading like wildfire, we find ways to ensure others can choose to work in person when needed. During the making of this program, we were blessed to have access to masks that allowed us to interact with others. Sharing our journey to creating awareness about working online and in person during this global health emergency.
I loved working from home. It was amazing.
It was necessary.
Virtual.
Maybe frustrating.
Complicated.
Maskless.